Fresh from the showcase, Swiss Watch Expo. This morning we are talking about one of the most important wristwatches that's ever been launched in history. This is one of my favorites. It's the Rolex GMT Master. And this watch, you might not realize why it's so important, but I would really encourage you to do a little research, look into the history of it. It's really interesting because until the modern jet age, people didn't really travel a lot where they would move from time zone to time zone. They didn't really need to know the time in another time zone. It only mattered what time it was right now, right here, where they are. But once you had the ability suddenly to travel across time zones in a short period of time, you had the ability to land in a different continent, even in just a few hours, it suddenly became a necessity. It became an actual need for the tool, especially started off for the pilots. Pan Am Airways, you might know, was really the world's first worldwide airline. They were the unofficial flag carrier for the United States. If you were someone like JFK or the Beatles, you flew on Pan Am. You've seen the pictures of the Beatles getting off the plane at JFK with their Pan Am bags as they walked out of first class. This was really the biggest airline, the biggest need for reading time in different time zones was created by Pan Am. So it just stands to reason, once they got to a certain point and they were synchronizing their worldwide operations. Because you think about it, if you take off in Miami and you talk about the time you're taking off, that's local time, but you're going to land in Argentina. Well, what time in Argentina? So there's all sorts of factors that go into which time zone you're looking at, whether you're able to synchronize those or not. And Pan Am wanted to be able to put all of their reports, everything together on one time. So they decided that they would use Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, as the time zone that runs right through London, that would be time zone 0, and everything would be indexed to that. So it's interesting, when you look at this watch, this is a watch that really shows you as a world traveler, someone who does business in multiple time zones, someone who is cosmopolitan, a child of the jet age, someone who has that sort of romantic ideal of travel on your wrist all the time. So to me, it's one of the greatest watches ever made. When they commissioned the watch, Pan Am did, for their pilots, they asked for the third hand that would show the time zone in GMT. And the bezel was not as useful as it is now. The watch has gone through a lot of improvements, a lot of ways that it's even more useful today than it was those very first ones. But the very first watches probably will never see outside of a museum. The first GMTs from the 1950s are extremely rare. There weren't that many of them made. What you really saw in the GMT Master was the first sort of more, I wouldn't even say mass production because they didn't make that many of them, but the first sort of serialized release that took place started in 1959 with the reference 1675. So this is one of my all-time favorite watches. People ask us a lot, what's your favorite watch? What's your favorite Rolex? This is absolutely one of mine. The case is a little bit smaller than the current versions. I've got here 3 different generations so you can kind of compare them and see the differences. The one that I've got here as a comparison is a reference 16710. This one is one that we sell a lot of. If you're thinking about a GMT Master and you don't want to deal with the idiosyncrasies of a vintage piece, this is probably the one you'd get, a 16710. It comes with an all black bezel or the black and red like we have here as the Coke version, we call it, or the blue and red Pepsi, which mimics the original. So it's interesting though when you look at this. On the 1675, this one is from 1960-61. And so it's a very early example. You can see the dial. I think my grandmother would probably not like it at all. She didn't like things to look old or dirty or crusty, she called it. But I love it. I think that this is one of the coolest looks that you could possibly get from a vintage watch. It's got a patina on the dial that's natural to it. There were a lot of different dials made for the 1675. It was produced one of the longest running references at Rolex. It was made from 1959 to 1980. So over that 21-year, 31-year period, there were a lot of different dials, very slight nuances. There were, from my count, about 17 different dials that mostly focus on slight differences to the font or the size of the Rolex crown at 12 or what's written under 6 o'clock. This one happens to be a Tritium era dial, so it says Swiss T less than 25. So it means that there's not that much millicurie of radiation being emitted from the dial. But you can see this one is natural to the era. It does have a lot of sort of almost like rust showing through. There were 3 different companies that Rolex used at the time to make dials. So some of them get this patina, some don't. It's one of the cool mysteries that there's no 2 dials exactly alike. This particular one, you would never see another dial exactly like this. So when you look at this one, it has the minute track around the edge. It's not a chapter ring dial. The chapter ring has a painted sort of a circle around the outside edge of the dial. This one has, of course, the plexiglass crystal that was natural to all of these reference 1675s. The bezel insert, this is probably the original. It's a Pepsi that you can see has a lot of faded out feature to the paint. It's considered patina as well. But enough about this particular one. To look at these watches in general, you can see it's a little bit smaller diameter. The 16710 is a 40 millimeter watch like most of the GMTs are, but the 1675, it's a little bit smaller. It's about 39. A little bit low, on the more slight side, but you really wouldn't notice it if you have it on. You can see the crown guards here are much different. These are called pointed crown guards. You can see they actually come to a point when you look at the side, as opposed to the 16710 where they're not. So that's one of the big differences. You can see the lugs are a slightly different shape. One of the biggest things though is the profile that you get from that plexiglass crystal versus the dead flat sapphire crystal. And on these 1675s, not a lot of the bracelets have survived, so a lot of them you see now are on the leather strap. The 16710, you can definitely get the original Rolex Oyster bracelet on it still. Between these two, there was sort of a transitional model. This is the 16750, and this one was made in the 1980s. It still has the plexiglass crystal, but it doesn't have the pointed crown guards. It has a more modern looking dial. You could get it on a Jubilee bracelet. Interesting, the 1675s, a lot of the local dealers at the time offered Jubilee bracelets for them as an upgrade. A lot of people took that upgrade, and so then Rolex kind of did this one as a throwback to honor that original look. And you see that on the current Pepsi steel model as well. It comes only on the Jubilee bracelet. Loads of famous people have worn this watch. I'm sure you've probably seen Magnum PI wearing his, or Honor Blackman in the James Bond movies, or even Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now was wearing a GMT Master with the bezel off. So it gave it a different look. That watch recently sold at auction for millions. But all in all, one of the absolute best watches you could possibly invest in. These have done nothing but go up and up and up in value over the decades. I've kind of been watching the value of these watches for about 30 years. And it's the closest thing to a blue chip stock in the watch world. At any given time on SwissWatchExpo.com, you can put in the search bar 1675, see if we've got any of this generation in. You can put in GMT Master and see what comes up. Check our new arrivals. I do it every morning when I have my coffee. I click on new arrivals, and while I'm sipping my coffee, I see what came in, because we post new watches almost every day. And it's fun and really interesting a lot of times to see what pops up that was completely unexpected. I didn't expect this one to show up last week, but then there it was, and I just fell in love with it. So if I haven't bought it yet, it's probably still available there on Swiss Watch Expo. Just take a look, click the bell, get the notifications, subscribe to our channel, give us a call, and we'll be happy to talk about GMT Masters and what the differences are and help you find the perfect one for your wrist.